Very shocking news. Loudly crying face. The painful secret of BTS Jimin. Loudly crying face. The heartbreaking truth behind his smile. The lights of the stadium are blinding, casting a glow over a sea of millions who scream his name. Yet there was a time when the world did not know who Park Jimin was. And worse, there was a time when Jimin did not know if he belonged in this world at all. Behind the glitz of global stardom and the perfectly choreographed movements lies a human story so raw and filled with silent battles that it forces us to look beyond the idol and see the fragile, resilient soul beneath. To understand the magnitude of his success, one must first walk through the shadows where he almost lost himself, a journey that transforms mere admiration into a profound, aching respect. The story begins not on a grand stage, but in the quiet, uncertain streets of Busan, where a young boy harbored dreams that seemed too large for his reality. While fans now know him as a dance prodigy, his transition from a student of modern dance to a pop idol trainee was not a path paved with gold, but one paved with insecurity and tremendous pressure. According to various media sources and verified interviews, leaving his hometown to come to Seoul was a leap into a cold, terrifying void. He was leaving behind the comfort of family and the recognition of his teachers to enter a system that did not care about his past accolades, only his potential to survive. When Jimin arrived in Seoul, the reality of the trainee life hit him with a brutal force that nearly shattered his resolve. He was not the first choice. In fact, he was the very last member to join the group, entering a lineup that had already formed bonds and established hierarchies. This late entry created a massive psychological burden. He felt like an outsider looking in, constantly plagued by the fear that he was temporary. In an interview on U Quiz on the Block, Jimin revealed that he did not know where he would sleep or if he would be there the next day. The dorms were crowded, the future was hazy, and the financial limitations of their small agency meant that nothing was guaranteed. The fear of failure was not just a thought, it was a daily companion. Reports and band testimonials confirm that Jimin was on the verge of being kicked out of the lineup multiple times. Some sources suggest as many as 8 times. He was told he did not fit the group's style, that his dancing was too classical, or that his vocals were not ready. Every evaluation was a battle for survival. Imagine the mental toll of waking up every single morning thinking that today might be the day you are sent home, the day you have to look your parents in the eyes and say you were not good enough. That was the air Jimin breathed for months. To combat this paralyzing fear of rejection, Jimin turned to a method that borders on self-destruction: excessive, punishing hard work. He decided that if he lacked natural talent in hip-hop, he would replace it with blood and sweat. He slept for only 2 hours a day, curling up in the dance studio or napping briefly in the practice room because he felt he did not deserve the luxury of rest. While the other members slept, Jimin stayed awake, repeating the same movement thousands of times until his body screamed in protest. He has admitted in past documentaries that he lived in the practice room, driven by a desperate need to prove his worth, not just to the company, but to himself. Even after the monumental debut of BTS, the struggle did not end, it merely changed its face. The criticism from the public was sharp and unforgiving. In the early years, Jimin faced intense scrutiny regarding his appearance and his voice. For a young man already struggling with self-esteem, these comments were like daggers. During the Wings era, verified documentary footage reveals a side of Jimin that broke the hearts of millions. He became obsessed with perfection, feeling that he was lagging behind the other members. He engaged in extreme dieting, starving himself for days to achieve a specific look, admitting later that he would pass out during rehearsals due to lack of energy. He was fighting a war against his own body, driven by a voice in his head that whispered he was never quite perfect enough. There were moments of profound darkness where he considered giving up entirely. In his solo track Lie, and later in interviews discussing that period, Jimin hinted at a time when he felt caught in a web of untruths about himself, losing his way. He smiled for the cameras, playing the role of the cheerful, energetic member, while internally he was crumbling under the weight of expectations. He felt unnecessary. He questioned his contribution to the group. It is a terrifying realization for any human being to look in the mirror and feel like a burden to the people they love the most. This was not just idle pressure. This was a deep, existential crisis of self-worth. Yet, what makes Jimin's story so compelling is not just the pain, but the quiet, stubborn hope that kept him standing. Amidst the self-doubt, he found an anchor in the members and, eventually, in the music itself. He began to channel his suffering into his art. The turning point was not a sudden award or a paycheck, but a shift in mindset, a realization that his vulnerability was not a weakness. He started to write songs like Promise, a track born from his own internal struggles. He released it for free, not for profit, but as a comforting hand extended to himself and to anyone else hurting. He promised himself to stop being his own worst enemy. It was a declaration of peace with his own demons. However, success brought a new kind of isolation. As BTS climbed to unprecedented heights, becoming the biggest band in the world, the air at the top became thin and suffocating. During the global pandemic, when the cheers of the concerts were silenced, Jimin faced a severe period of burnout and loneliness. In interviews surrounding his solo album Face, he confessed to feeling lost and drinking to escape the emptiness. He questioned the purpose of his life when the connection with fans was severed. Verified reports from Weverse magazine highlight his admission of feeling stagnant, battling a sense of deep depression while the world saw him as a pinnacle of success. It is a haunting reminder that fame does not cure loneliness. Often, it amplifies it. Despite these crushing waves of emotional turbulence, Jimin chose to fight back once again. He poured these raw, unfiltered emotions into his solo album. He did not hide the pain. He exposed it. He sang about the loneliness, the anger, and the desire to be set free. This honesty is why he is so deeply loved. Fans do not just worship a celebrity. They connect with a human being who understands the texture of sadness. They see a man who is incredibly kind, often seen comforting other members or staff, putting others before himself even when he is hurting. His empathy is not a performance. It is a character trait forged in the fires of his own suffering. He knows how much words can hurt, so he chooses to speak only with warmth. Financially, Jimin has achieved what many would consider the ultimate dream. According to various media outlets and financial reports, his net worth is in the multi-millions, and he owns luxury real estate in South Korea. Yet, those who follow him closely know that these numbers mean little to him compared to his artistic integrity. He has donated significant amounts to education and polio eradication, often quietly, without seeking praise. These actions speak of a man who remembers what it was like to have nothing and wants to ensure others do not suffer the same uncertainty he faced as a boy in Busan. Looking to the future, Jimin's goals seem to have shifted from conquering the world to conquering his own inner peace. He speaks of wanting to be a better singer, a better dancer, not for the charts, but to satisfy his own standards of artistry. He wants to be a person who can provide comfort to others for a long time. There is a sense of maturity in his recent words, acceptance that he is still a work in progress, and that is okay. He is learning to navigate his military service and his solo career with a grounding sense of responsibility, no longer the terrified boy afraid of being cut, but a man who knows his place is earned, not given. As we watch him now, moving with that ethereal grace that seems to defy gravity, we must remember the weights tied to his ankles that he dragged for years. We must remember the nights of hunger, the tears in the bathroom, the paralyzing fear of the future, and the crushing loneliness of the hotel rooms. Jimin is not just a star. He is a survivor of his own mind. He represents the universal human struggle to find worth in a world that constantly asks us to prove it. He stands as a testament that softness is not weakness, and that broken things can be put back together to create something even more beautiful than before. When the music fades and the cheers die down, what remains is not the idol Park Jimin, but the man, flawed, scarred, beautiful, and endlessly trying. And perhaps, that is why the world watches him with such breathless emotion. Not because he is perfect, but because he fought so hard to survive his imperfections. In the silence that follows his performance, if you listen closely, you can hear the echo of a boy who simply refused to give up on himself. And for that, he commands not just our love, but our deepest, most trembling respect.